To your pre-grand final Collingwood's going to win version of Markets Morning today. How excited am I? Can you tell? Grand finals don't come around very often, and when they do, it's always exciting. And we didn't do very well last year, so it's even more exciting. Anyway, I'll turn the theme song down. We might leave with that. But another interesting night last night. US dollar was much stronger, but it's still within the range. We saw that the euro broke down through that little wedge. The dollar index broke up. Of course, you know, they're pretty well correlated, those two being mostly euro when it comes to the DXY. But the key thing here, I think, is that the theme that I've been talking about for 6 months at least, that policy divergence is a thing, that economic divergence is a thing, is certainly one of the key reasons why the euro's lower, why sterling's lower, why the Aussie got belted, why copper reversed. They're all correlated with the US dollar. Of course, there's some issues with the trade war. The battle in NAFTA with the Canadians is still strong. That's been pretty ugly this week in many ways, so we've got to keep an eye on that because that would be devastating to the Canadian dollar and to some parts of the Canadian economy. And then I think I've highlighted in my Markets Morning written piece that Europe needs to be careful too. Secretary of State Pompeo is a bit grumpy about what the Europeans are doing with relation to Iran, and on that front, you know, it could be that the US hits back in some way. We'll keep an eye on that one. Just quickly around the grounds, stocks are up in Europe and in the US. In Europe, largely, I think, because their currencies were weaker, but in the US, because what Chairman Powell told us, coffee cup, Collingwood, what Chairman Powell told us was that the US economy is doing well, and even though rates are going to rise, policy is still accommodative, so it shouldn't derail this US economy anytime soon. We saw the SPY up, but we saw copper down, we saw base metals down. That was a US dollar effect. Also about the trade battle, copper lost about 2%. Pardon me, and fell through that level I talked about yesterday. In terms of currencies, 116.36 for euro, 130.73 for the sterling. Dollar yen is up right at the top of this range, just trying to break out. Aussie's back at 72. If it breaks here, it's got 20, 25 points. If it breaks that, we could see it another 100 points lower. Kiwi's down on its knees as well. CAD's holding in better than expected. WTI was up despite stories that 550,000 barrels were going to come onto the market from the Saudis. Gold's broken down 1183. It's really got a hold. Otherwise, it's sort of 1156 to 1160 as my target. Let's dive in and we'll kick off. We'll do forex, then we'll do commodities, then we'll do stocks, and then we'll do Bitcoin. Basically, you can see what I see. This is the chart we've talked about. This is what I talked about yesterday. Medium-term view of things. You could have easily panicked out of a position the other night, or yesterday morning, I should say, after the dovish. It was really interesting, and I know I said it yesterday, but you read the statement and then you listen to what Powell says, and I know that what people do, because we all have biases, and being a behavioural economics and finance guy, I'm really cognizant of people's biases and how they affect them. I think it helped me. Well, I know it helps me. But anyway, so we wanted to read, or not we, but people wanted to read dovishness. They wanted to see that accommodative was taken out. They wanted to see that that meant that the Fed was nearing stopping of rate hikes. And of course, they bought the euro higher. But the euro couldn't even get through the high of a couple of days before. If you only looked at the short-term charts, you could easily have panicked or bought and then got flipped. That's why this medium-term stuff. That's why I wait for the full turn of the day. Markets open in Sydney, they finish in New York. They open in Sydney, they finish in New York. That's the way the world of trading works. I get to look at a full bar. In Europe, they're halfway through Asia, and the US hasn't closed. It's a much better way to look at charts at the close of US or the open of Sydney. And so what do we got? We've got the euro looking a bit wobbly. I've got it down towards, so right here is support. I'm thinking it comes down to about 115.75, and then we'll see what happens there. I've got some shorts on. I've actually got a signal to sell some more. So we'll see. I've got a signal to sell. Buy dollar index, sell euro, sell sterling, sell Aussie, sell euro yen, sell Aussie Sing, which is interesting, isn't it? What else have I got? Sorry to show you the side of my head. It's not very attractive. Nothing in the commodity space. Euro CAD sell. And CAD yen buy. So the CAD's holding up. So what you often find after a big move is sometimes these signals get reversed, and then it's a second signal that works best. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for the moment, euro looks lower. Dollar yen. Bitcoin's in there somewhere. So right, so we've broken. We're into that blue zone. This is make or break take for dollar yen. Theoretically, on a pure my first ever system kind of basis, you've got to have a target now. 109, 113. That's that's 3.5. 115 odd. Sorry, not 115. 117, 118. Let's do the weekly so you can get a sense of it. So it's 116.40 is the target medium term. As long as stocks hold up, why wouldn't dollar yen go there? Why wouldn't it? Sure. US 10s haven't gone through and they've actually rejected that 312 level. But dollar yen is going up because risk has caught a little bit of a bid, and the US dollar is strong. That combination is tough for the yen to fight against. So up and through this blue zone, it's in this blue zone of resistance. But if you just look at it, it's gone too far, too fast for me. So at some point there'll be a pullback. Where will it pull back to? Will it pull back to 112 or something like that? I thought it might yesterday. It has not. It's gone through. So I'm caught between timeframes here. What I would normally do when you get caught between timeframes, if you're not on a move, what I do is I revert to Kathy Leanne's double Bollinger Band strategy, and then you use the gap between the first Bollinger Band and the second Bollinger Band, so 1 standard deviation and 2 standard deviations, as a way to get back in. Because what you always see, I should say, is if the trend is staying strong, you come back to the first standard deviation, and that's where it finds support. Works on any time frame. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I, of course, like everything I do, have got my own little sneaky things about it, but it really is a good strategy. Sterling is on the cusp. Sterling is on the cusp of a breakdown. I've written extensively about sterling. I've written extensively about Brexit in Markets Morning today. So have a look at that. I won't go through all of that. All I can say to you here is that if sterling takes out this recent low, and that low would be 130.55. So that's only 20 or so points. It looks like it's going to go lower. My signal to sell sterling, if I just scroll back across, is actually at 130.73, so about now. So I better jump off air and do that in a minute. In terms of the battler, it's been falling out of bed. If you have a look at the 4 hours, you can get a really good sense of it. So we've had this move up, we've moved down. Remember, I started talking about on Twitter last week on the 4 hour chart, suggesting that it was going to head lower. That was around here. It's done that. Okay, that spike would have flipped anybody who was just trading on that basis alone and not longer term kind of thing. But now what have we got? We've got this Aussie coming lower. 72.04 open 71.80, 71.80 open 71.40, 71.40 open 70.80. So that's the kind of the way it goes at the moment. End of the week, it's been a big week for traders. I'm not exactly sure what might happen in late New York trade tomorrow, but if the US dollar enters from Europe on a strong footing, you could see it get belted as other currencies get belted as we head through. In terms of dollar CAD, holding up quite nicely. Inside day so far today. Rejection at the 38.2. So we're still in this range. We've got this range, this box, this Davis box. So let's forget these bits over here, and let's just say it's the 100% retracement and the 61.8. This seems to be our range recently here. So where's it gone? You just put a nice little uptrend there on the short-term basis. Go down to the 4 hours. One thing, you can see that it's gone too far too fast, which is why it's pulling back. As long as it holds above 130, the uptrend remains intact in the short term, I would argue. Kiwi, not an uptrend. It's heading back towards a retest. I think I mentioned that yesterday or certainly this week. 65.80 would be the target. It's at 66.09 now. It's pulled back. Same, this is the key level, bottom, bottom, bottom. I talked about it yesterday. Bottom, 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 break, top, 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 top. Now it's back lower. So the key thing though, look at all these charts. Think about all these charts. I haven't shown you the DXY, but it's pretty much similar to the euro. They're all still within the range. So let's not get too excited. If those ranges break, if euro takes out 113, my target's 108 and a bit. All right? If the Kiwi takes out 65, my target's in this sort of the 62s. 62.5 or thereabouts. Similar for the Aussie, all those kind of things. But these ranges have to break. Otherwise, we're just in a range. And it could be a bottoming range. So let's not overlay a desire for a move on top of the actual move that we're seeing in front of us, because that is the key thing. 10 minutes in, I'm gibbering. Let me go straight to, I'm excited. The footy tomorrow is going to be great. Anyway, so gold's broken down. 1183, that was this low over here. If it gets down through 1183, then if I was to measure, if I draw that, bring that wedge back to there, if I measure the width of it and then extrapolate it, it's 1156 to 1160. 1160 happens to be the bottom of the range anyway, or thereabouts. And so I'm saying that it looks to me like gold is going to target 1160. And if you think about, gold lost 1% last night. Euro lost 0.8, sterling lost about the same, Aussie and Kiwi lost about 0.6. If you think about what that means, copper lost 2%. If you think about what that means for currencies more broadly, it means more US dollar strength. It means 115.25 maybe for euro, and then the relative merits of all those other ones. Now, yesterday I said if 278.80 broke, copper would fall. It's fallen now. This 274 level, where is it now? 277.05. Let's go to the 4 hour so you can get a better handle on it. So what you've got, if you do this, right? So 275.70 or thereabouts. High there, kind of bottom-ish, but that'd be it. 275.50, call it. If it gets down through there, then you've got 272.50, 279. If it takes out that low there, then we're heading back down towards the lows. So have a look at that one. That's a US dollar. But I've written a lot about China in the daily, in the markets morning today. Have a look at that. I'm not trying to overlay a view. I think China's a wonderful nation and all that kind of thing, but they have been stealing intellectual property. I've linked some things in there. This is a big battle. The reason I say that, what I've just said, is not to have a view on China or America or who's right or who's wrong, but as traders and as a fundamental trader who then uses technicals for entry and exit, what I'm looking at here is a longer version of the trade war than I think many people are focused on. So have a look at that. Anyway, where was I up to? WTI, I think. Well, let's go Brent. I'm here. Brent is still holding in there. Even though 550 barrels are rumoured to be coming to market, even though that they said the SPR is not going to be used, pardon me, we did see a little bit higher. Only 0.3%. That looks, if you look at the 4 hours, you'll see it looks like a topping pattern. So the level to watch here is 80.13. Down through 80.13 and you get 79.69, and 79.69's got to hold. It needs to hold on the weekly basis, otherwise you'd end up with a false break. Because remember, that happened first thing Monday morning. One thing I have noticed, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but one thing I have noticed, when I write stuff and say stuff, often what I find is because I've written it, or because I've said it here in this video, I assume it's assimilated in the price, but often with oil it's not. In currencies it mostly is, but often in oil it's not. Something to think about, because yesterday we saw another rally. Now, I talked about the SPR thing in this video. I wrote about it in my morning report. And then futures got busy again, and it was apparently because of the SPR thing. So you got to watch the headlines, folks. I think that's the key takeaway. Anyway, we found some support at 71.37. 71.20 to 71.40 to me is the key here. On a structural basis, from a daily point of view, I wouldn't want to see it back below 71.20. That would signal a false break as well. So keep an eye on that one. Getting the skates on at 14 minutes. S&P bounced in front of the trend line. As I keep saying, the Jimmy R, the weekly trends are higher. Not trying to get bearish on this. There will be price corrections. You've got to respect the levels, and that's the key thing for stocks. US markets have got a very strong upward bias at the moment. And even though I've been talking about and wrote about in my weekly wrap that the NASDAQ had stalled, you can see that the NASDAQ was higher last night. Apple got upgraded by JP Morgan, I think, to an overweight or something like that. It rallied 2.5%. So you've got to keep an eye on that. If the NASDAQ's rallying, then you're going to see continued rallies in stocks per se in the US. This is the 4 hour chart of the SPY. McKenna Mantra respect levels and lines unless or until they break. My rule with trend lines, at 2 touches it's tentative, at 3 touches it's good, at 5 touches it's very, very strong. And this is what we've seen. We saw the market bounce away from that trend line. I thought it could have broken, but it didn't. And I said yesterday, I think that the 653 level needed to hold, 6153, and it did, and then we saw the bounce. So what have we got? We've got a range. So that is just a range trade for the Aussie. Also in markets morning today, I've shown a chart of the Aussie market versus the S&P. And what you see there is that the Aussie market needs the S&P to keep rallying, to hold up. But it's more likely than not, given current settings and where US bonds are, those kind of things, that it will. DAX, I haven't even looked at a DAX chart today. I haven't had time. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Look at that trend line. Are we going to see it bust to close the week? We could. Last night, was a good rally for the DAX, about 0.4%. And that's a bullish outside day by the looks of things to me. So if that line, trend line gets taken out, the trend line comes in around 12.440. That high the other day was 12.443. So if it trades 12.450 or thereabouts, it looks like it's going to run. Last but not least, our favorite crypto. It was up 3% last night. This is the 4-hour version, the one day version. Lots of lines and lots of messiness. You can see a mild uptrend there. MACD is not doing anything at the moment in real terms. You've got to go down to the 4 hours. And I know that'll suit some of you. Some of you like to trade shorter time frames. And if you look at the process I use, it works on 15 minutes, it works on hourlies, it works on dailies, it works on weeklies. So what have you got? You've got a break here. What do we need? Well, there's a trend line that comes in at 6,700. If it can close the week above 6,700, I know Bitcoin never closes, but if it can run. Anyway, that's it from me. There's still some important data out in the States tonight, so keep an eye on that. Still some important data in Europe and Germany as well. But these trends, this end of week is going to be really, and I say that every week, I know, this end of week is going to be really important for the US dollar. This could be the big reversal week. This could be the week that signals Euro's going back to 113, that Sterling's going back to 126, that the Aussie's going back to 70, 80 or whatever it bottomed out at. Whether or not it breaks is a different story, but it does look like the weight of pressure is on the upside for the US dollar. We can talk about that Monday. Also, over the weekend, I'll be doing my chart scan. Haven't released that as a product yet. I will when I go to a subscription basis. But for the moment, that's what informs my trading and what we talk about every day. But have a great weekend. Go Collingwood. And I'll be back probably wearing a beanie and a hat and celebrating a Collingwood victory on Monday. Bye for now.